Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to follow us on our other platforms, Twitter and Facebook. And please give comments, leave comments so that we can get back to you and let you answer your questions, and you can let us know what you would like to see and how we can improve, which we would really appreciate. So today we want to talk about an interesting article from Korn Ferry. And Korn Ferry is one of the largest recruiting firms in the world. And more to the point, they're focused heavily on senior positions. So they're sort of at the hub of many industries and hiring activity at senior levels within those industries. And of course, one of those industries that they're heavily involved with is technology. And this article specifically was talking about AI. So they had a lot of interesting things to say. But basically, a lot of change has occurred because of COVID. So here we are in the States, we're in about month 10 or 11 of COVID here. And of course, it hit China first and other areas in Asia and then Europe. But COVID has changed everything. And one of the things that's changed is AI. So this article is very interesting because it talks about how AI has progressed before COVID and since COVID. So the article says that results for AI were very mixed prior to the onset of COVID. What does that mean? That means that a lot of time and money and effort was spent trying to get AI to work for certain applications that it never really worked for, or at least it wasn't commercially viable. And an interesting thing the article said is that AI spending is now about $50 billion a year, and it will more than double in the next 4 years. Their forecast by 2024 is $110 billion. This is why I keep telling you that we're at the very beginning of the AI wave, and that I set up this channel to let everyone know what's coming, what's going on. Even though there's other articles and other websites out there, none of them focus on the human impact like we do. And the human impact is what's going to matter. In fact, it's all that matters. But what the article did say is that since the start of COVID, AI has been made to work and really leveraged, meaning focused on in some of the areas where it actually was working. So one of those, there's a company called Cognavi that has focused on AI algorithms to interpret and forecast human behavior. And this particular company has been very successful with this. So they were able to see, based on an index of anxiety that they had built with AI, they could see the first surge of anxiety starting in January in the US, well before COVID had actually hit, and there were known sick people. There were sick people, but they were unknown in January mostly, except maybe Washington State and California. But Cognavi has been able to use that technology since then to help policymakers understand the human impact of COVID, which has been very significant. There's been a sharp rise in depression, a sharp rise in anxiety, and because of those two mental illnesses increasing, there's been a sharp rise in alcoholism and drug abuse and domestic violence. So this is all very unfortunate, but Cognavi is working to be able to better predict these trends so that resources can be put in place to help people. It's a great thing. Another company they talked about, Kando out of Israel. had an AI that could analyze wastewater. We're talking sewage here. And they put AI-enhanced sensors into sewage, and they could detect the onset of a spike in cases before it was visible in the public. How? Because it shows up in your poop after you get infected weeks before you're symptomatic. So this Condo AI solution has been very good at tracking the progress of COVID spread and warning people in new areas that it was on the way. So that kind of thing is terrific. Besides, by the way, this can be used for any disease, infectious disease. So this has tremendous long-term potential, just like Cognavi does with behavior. One of the hardest industries hit by COVID has been the movie theater business. The one where I live went out of business a while ago, back in, I'm going to say, October. It just couldn't make it. But a company called Vue has been helping theaters as they are able to reopen to allocate the right number of seats based on the rate of infection at the time. So this is a dynamic, real-time, AI-driven solution that helps theaters manage how many people they can get so they can maximize revenue during a very, very difficult period. So this is going to continue, right? I mean, this has applications under normal circumstances in theaters, but also restaurants, anywhere that serves the public at forecasting demand and allowing better staffing. So, like if I had a restaurant chain, I'd be implementing this as the vaccine rolls out and people start going out to eat again more to forecast staffing needed. Cool tool. Next up, we've got Capital One. Everyone in the U.S. knows who that is, huge credit card and banking company. They have a solution called Eno. And one of the impacts of COVID, as we all know, is forcing people to do all their shopping online, which has benefited Amazon hugely. But it also resulted in a huge spike of fraud, right? People stealing credit cards and using them illegally to buy stuff. Well, Capital One's Eno AI can spot fraud very, very quickly and warn the consumer and shut down the account and reissue a new credit card. So that's a cool tool and one that is going to penetrate all of banking, obviously. And then finally, Korn Ferry talked about a company called Eightfold, and they're using AI to enhance the hiring process. So we've talked about this one before. This has been around for a while. However, it was pretty seriously biased and withdrawn from use because biases were programmed into the AIs based on the samples used and or the person who programmed it. Not good, don't want that. But Eightfold took a different approach. What they did was globally source skills that humans have. So they looked at worldwide populations and worldwide ways that people make a living and what were the skills that allowed them to make a living doing that. And looking globally, they came up with over 1 million human skills. So that's a lot. But identifying those skills does help employers find people who are better matched to that particular position because it can match the person's background to the skills needed. And so this is a positive use for companies, at least, of using AI in hiring because this isn't a situation that'll induce biases. This is matching skills available to skills needed. So that's a more objective task and very suitable to AI. So that was it. Great article. I'll put the link in. Also, you can see from all these companies that there's a wide variety of opportunities to work for companies that are either in the AI space, like many of these are, or a company like Capital One, who does retail banking and stuff like that, but also uses AI extensively. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And as I mentioned before, we're going to start providing resources for you to pursue these kind of careers if you're interested, and that will happen very, very shortly, and will always be given, like the job advice, at the end of the videos. So stay to the end. Thanks a lot, take care, and see you soon.